So welcome to the 31st episode of the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast all about Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking about Festival King, the new meta-breaking unit. We're also going to be talking about the new unit on JP that just came out this week, Blue Evil Lillia, and a little spoiler alert, I'm a little excited for her. We've actually got 3 people on the show today, so we're going to have a game at the end. We're going to be doing a Jeopardy game, which we've been holding on to for a long time. And the reason we've got 3 people is we've got not only Claptrap, who's been here for the last few weeks, but we also have Odie. Odie, welcome to the show, man. He's a fellow guildmate, and he's a great conversationalist, so we're glad to have him on the show. This is long overdue, Odie.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while. Well, you've been doing the podcast for a while, but we've all been denied for a while. I appreciate y'all having me on tonight. It's an honor to be on the show tonight. You guys have a great podcast going, and hopefully you have a pretty good time.
Yeah, at the end of last show, because the featured comment for last show was Odie's comment, I was like, man, why don't we have Odie on the show? Like, he'd be amazing, perfect for it. He's very opinionated. He's a great conversationalist. I feel like he'd be perfect for the format, so I'm so glad you're here. And I don't know if I've told you yet, Odie, like Odie has, for many, many months, been saying how great Green Shin is, and I actually crafted his relic this week. So I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but I've been enjoying trying him out in kind of the Guild Wars content. So thanks, Odie, for being on the Green Shin bandwagon. I'm now on it with you.
I tried to tell you, he's a little bit underrated. I was glad that he got a relic that's actually going to be, viable to kind of put him back in the mix again. And I think that's kind of what the whole point of the relics is to kind of make these old characters that don't have the stats and the abilities to kind of hang in the modern meta to at least come back in and, kind of make guest appearances from time to time.
Yeah, and it's cool, and it's neat to see some of the units' synergies they get with their relics and their kits too, which can take them from, quasi-relevance or irrelevance and bring them back into the meta too. So that'll be pretty cool. Maybe we'll be talking about that a little bit more during the show too, because, we've got Evil Lillia here. We'll be talking about her relic as well, I'm sure. But let's start rolling into the show here. We'll start with Festival King, because I know we all have a lot to say on this guy. Festival King, for those who've been living under a rock, he's the new festival unit, just got released a few days ago. He'll be here for a few weeks if you need to summon. If you haven't summoned him on yet, haven't got him, spoiler alert, you probably should summon on them, because he is definitely one of those meta-breaking must-have units going forward. Just going to go over his kit quickly before we start talking about him. His first skill is an AoE Power Strike card. Power Strike does additional damage based on the resistance of the target. Again, Power Strike, that's what Merlin's got with her Spike card, right? Like, we all know it's a really strong, very powerful card. It's what Sariel has on a single target card as well. So a very strong AoE skill. His second skill is an AoE Sever, which is 3 times crit chance, and that's Sariel's AoE, one of the best AoEs in the game. So he's got 2 really hard-hitting AoEs. His passive is crazy too. So when he uses a skill, he increases the damage dealt to enemies by 30%, as if he wasn't doing enough already. Then he creates a barrier, a gray buff barrier, around all allies, equal to 15% of the damage dealt, which is big because, again, it's AoE damage, for 1 turn. It decreases damage taken by 100%, which sounds kind of confusing, but we'll explain that in a second. And it increases damage dealt by 25%. And of course, for whatever reason, this excludes deathmatch. I did take him into deathmatch thinking that maybe it'd be a fun thing to try on a red demon, but yeah, guess what? It doesn't really work too well. So just to explain how the shield works, because it's a little complicated and confusing at first. So it says damage taken decreases by 100%. What that actually means, it's not like you just take no damage. It means that it takes the basic multiplier of the card. So you know how you've got like 140% attack against this with a card? It would take that and it would reduce that base multiplier by 100%. So it'd take 140% damage card or attack card and take it down to like a 40% attack card. But if there's any sort of extra text on it, like amplify or power strike or pierce, it doesn't affect that portion of it, just the base multiplier. So most normal attack cards do really piss poor damage against King Shields, but your pierce, your amplifies, your power strikes, your flood cards, anything with that extra damage text can actually do a decent amount of damage to the King Shield, and you can crit through King Shields unlike Liz Shields. So his ult is also interesting too. His ult cancels debuffs on all allies, and it also strips buffs on all enemies. And for every buff canceled on the enemy, it increases the damage received by those enemies by 2% on a 1/6 ult to up to 40% if you 6/6 them for one turn. And it inflicts damage equal to 400% of attack on all enemies. So if you're going into like a targets with lots of buffs, you're probably going to be wiping them, especially with high ult levels. Oh man, that's a lot to digest. And there's nothing weak about this guy. Odie, you're brand new to the show. I know you've got something to say about this. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I mean, I think we all got lots of thoughts on this character here. Let's call it what it is. I mean, King is the definition of OP. You know, I mean, for some odd reason, they decided it was a good idea to take all the best traits of every Archangel and kind of mold them together into one super character. You know, so good luck with a counter on that kind of deal. But, you know, to me, it's amazing that here we are 2.5 years later, you know, from the start, and we went from the blue King, you know, King Broom meta, and we've now come full circle back around to the blue King meta once again. So, you know, he's a crazy character.
It almost feels like they're like, okay, we're kind of sick of Margarets and Bonds running amok. We need something else to shake it up. And this is what it feels like. There's those kind of watershed moments that I feel like you have in this game where, you know, like when Bond dropped or even Margaret too, it just completely turns everything on its head in terms of PvP and even PvE too. And I feel like this King banner is one of those moments that's just kind of turning things around. And who knows how long it's going to be for. Maybe we'll get some units that are going to be more OP or counter King hard and just make King disappear. I don't know. Clap, are you on the same page with thinking this unit is just broken, busted? Do you think it's a mistake? I guess is another big question that they are releasing a character that's just simply put this strong.
It's definitely just a mistake making King.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I kind of like. I'm actually a little excited. I gotta say, it's kind of fun playing around with them, but I could feel the frustration if you're one of the people that didn't get a chance to pull him or you didn't have enough gems to pull him. Though, I had the luxury of having 900 gems to be able to go full rotation and getting King and maxing him out. But if you go into PvP right now and you don't have King, it's going to be a tough time for you.
Yeah, you're not going to have a good time over there. It's just, you know, the crazy thing about it is you figure with a character like this, they would have learned their lesson with Bond, because Bond has kind of been the whole catalyst for this whole power creep. And they made Bond so powerful that, you know, the units they released after him, the Summer Merlin wasn't enough. And then they released Margaret, and she wasn't enough to counter, even though she did such a good job. And, you know, so now they've moved on to King, you know, and I figured that by now we'd be kind of shifting into a green meta. Maybe that'll come in another month or two, but Bond was just so overpowered that it's taken them 3 solid characters to just kind of counter this meta.
And now that they've got this other OP character, it's like, how do you counter him? So you're going to have the next month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe just Netmarble throwing characters at us, trying to figure out how to counter the new King meta. But yeah, it's an interesting cycle, and it's frustrating, I'm sure, for a lot of people. But I mean, on Netmarble's part, they're here to make money, and I guess it's a good way to do that too, getting people to like refresh their units and making sure that you can't just hold on to units that are a year old for you know, perpetuity, right? They're here to make money too, as much as I'm sure a lot of people don't like to hear that.
Yeah, but that's also something I want to kind of bring up too, and you know, King's a great example of it. Is you see Netmarble kind of shifting here with these units are so OP that, you know, the future of Grand Crosshair, is it going to be single units, or are we going to start building teams that kind of function together? And you can see that with the new Lillia. You know, they're kind of forming the catastrophes into their own little special clique, and you know, you have the commandment clique, and are they going to make another one just for the demons? And you know, you have unknown teams, and so it almost seems like, you know, why make a summon for one unit when they can make a summon for 4? And it's the only way we can beat the previous 4 units. So hence Netmarble makes a bunch of money.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about Evil Lillia a bit today too, but she definitely feels like the first step of making that really strong catastrophe team, which you can tell they've been trying to work on with some of the existing units, but they've never quite been strong enough to really take over the meta in terms of PvP stuff. But yeah, Evil Lillia, like if you watch any YouTube videos of her on JP right now, boy, she can hit like a truck. And again, we'll talk about that in a bit, but I'm really liking how they've got pretty much every catastrophe, well, almost all of them have a relic now, and they seem to be, you know, trying to push onto us these catastrophe teams, putting in passives that work and synergize with other catastrophes. I think that's really cool. What I'm worried about though is what happens if they decide, okay, well, maybe we'll release a few fairies and get some fairy synergy going with Festival King. You make him even more cancerous, but I can't see them doing that in the near term. Maybe that'll be a longer term play.
Yeah, I don't think we need any more fairy teams going around again. You know, we already had the Kingbroom. You know, you're just going to make Kingbroom Mark 2?
Yeah, a new Hellbroom maybe. Where do we think he's best used? Like PvP is obviously like where we're seeing him now. Most comps involve a Festival King that are doing successfully in PvP, but I've seen a lot of people say, okay, he's great for the bird too, right? Like Clap, I know you're like the bird specialist. You seem to run it for half of our guild. I know you haven't had a chance to try Festival King in the bird yet, but like, do you think there's something there for those people that may not have the typical meta bird teams? If you have Festival King, is that enough to get through the bird that you've seen?
It's probably enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's
King,
shield, eh? Like,
yeah, with King, with the shield, bird just doesn't even damage you anymore. You just patience everything.
What are the meta teams for using King to try and defeat the bird? I've heard from a few people like they've tried him this week and they said, okay, you know, the Brunhilder standard team is fine. Like there's no reason to go to the King team. It's not necessarily better, but like what if you didn't have those units? Like, is there a team that you'd even suggest putting together with Festival King on it?
Probably just what I've seen so far. It's Gopher, King, Matrona, and just any DPS still.
Gotcha.
You still need your DPS to deal damage, because King doesn't do that for you.
Yeah, and I guess there's some people have been using T1 as the DPS, or any other DPS options too, or
what about
Megilda can probably still work.
Yeah, well, I guess the Megilda.
Pull for her.
Don't pull for Megilda. I pulled for Megilda. That is the number one unit I regret. Actually, Super Awakening 6.
She didn't work out for you, eh? Did you try her on the bird then?
It's really bad. It's actually it's painfully bad. Use the one or just stick to Brunhild. She's the way to go.
The 1/6 is enough.
I don't know what it is about that Valkyrie. Like it seems like she quite doesn't have like the proper team yet. Like I'm almost wondering if they're going to be releasing some units down the road that kind of work a bit better for her on the bird. But yeah, like for a unit that's designed specifically for the bird, you think she'd be better at it. I mean, like I know you can use her, but it seems like there's definitely better ways to go. And like she's not really useful anywhere else, so why bother?
She'd be great if she would actually perform, but the problem is between the card set for the healing and Matrona's passive there. And even using the rejuvenate skill, you can just never get your health to actually 100% full. And so it's very few times you actually get those extra stacking buffs, which is basically replacing the Green Gother, And so that's kind of what she's missing. So if they can really see a unit that kind of does better with the regeneration and kind of keeps your HP maxed out at all times, she might be viable. But until then, it's just a complete, it's a waste of resources.
Well, I think we've already established too that he's not necessarily great in demons either. When I tried using him in on Red Demon, his passive obviously doesn't do anything because it excludes deathmatch. It specifically says that, and his damage isn't that great. Maybe if you don't have a secondary DPS and you're newer to the game and you happen to pull Festival King, maybe it wouldn't be too bad. But the 111, if you have her, the Bon, Elaine, like there's a lot of better units to be using on the Red Demons, but you can use Festival King in a pinch, but don't expect him to carry the weight like some of the other units. How about in PvP? Have you guys thought or seen any, like have you guys been running King in PvP a lot?
Clap, what about you, man? I know I have been. I think we all played with
I've
King
only done one fight for my daily yesterday.
No,
that's it. So
who you
waiting for his cosmetics.
Yeah, what kind of comp you got going?
You just running the King, Gopher, and Kyo.
Everybody's running the Kyo comp. I haven't tried King with Kyo yet. I actually ran him with Margaret, and funny enough, the buff stacks. So when you give the damage boost for Margaret, it does stack because it's a blue buff. It stacks with King's gray buffs, and he hits like a truck.
Yeah, it seems like the two variants I've come across primarily, other than people just kind of like messing with random units, seems to be Green Gother almost across the board, then either Margaret or Kyo. And like you said, the fact that those two buffs stack is nuts. Margaret's buff and the shield. But yeah, like those are the two strongest teams I think that I've seen at least so far. If you've got Kyo, having Festival's Eldris in the back is amazing because you've got the boost to even boosting King's damage even more with all those ignite stacks on the field with Zeldris's passive. But yeah, I guess the other question too is like, how do you, if you don't have king, how do you counter this? I've been running king almost exclusively. I'm not sure if I've really lost a match. Oh, there was definitely one match that was difficult. I can't remember if I won it or lost it, but it was against an unknown team with Red Gother, and getting attack sealed is just cancerous if you don't have the Margaret variant. I guess like if you just have the Keo Gother king team, which is the one I've been running. If you get attack sealed, there's like absolutely nothing you could do. The one nice thing about the shield is it's hard to get for them to get an attack seal through it. But if you don't have a shield, your king shield up, and that attack seal comes, like you're pretty much your whole hand's locked out.
And that's what I kind of saw running around PvP yesterday. Is you're running into a lot of Red Gothers that are basically either attack sealing you because that's deadly to king. And everybody seems to be running the Keo comp, which you have no way to cleanse any of those debuffs off. And so it makes your life very difficult. So that's why I kind of preferred Margaret with them. It counters the Keo ignites as well as the attack seals and everything, and kind of keeps King, doing what he does best.
Who are you running backline? I was trying to figure out what the best backline unit would be in that situation, and I really couldn't come up with like the ideal character for that.
I mean, it's one of those things where there's so many people to choose from. I kind of took the easy way out, and I just threw in the token Death Pierce, just to throw it. Because he king crits so much, and with the reduced crit resistance and crit damage, I mean he's just it's a go-to staple backline guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other options too. The other ones I kind of came up with, because you can put in any human, and then no matter who dies, Green Gother's passive will still go off because you got a fairy and an angel in the front for the Margaret comp. T1 and Bon were just two that came to mind. Like Bon, especially if you have the relic, he pops out and you can almost like solo a team if things work out for you. And T1's always a scary one to pop in from the back too, because even if you lose your king first, then you've still got a Margaret T1 and a Green Gother, right? That's not a bad comp on its own. So it's not like you got a useless guy popping out. But hey, if you just go first and you got that Death Pierce in the back, he's cool. You can't neglect Death Pierce, man. That guy does a lot of support from the back line. He really amplifies damage a lot more than people I think give him credit for sometimes.
Yeah, too bad he doesn't do anything on the front line.
No, that is his downfall. Poor Death Pierce. I feel like when Netmarble released him, they're like, no one's ever going to like using this unit, and somehow he ended up, being a mainstay of the meta for many, many months after his release.
2 years now. Yeah, 2 years now.
Yeah, he's
still in the comps.
He's still kicking. He's definitely an old unit, but he's got his value, at least in the back line. So gear for this guy. I went attack crit. I can see an argument for HP crit, especially since like with Festival King, if you get the mirror match, whoever goes first generally wins. So I could see the argument for going HP crit just to get a little bit extra CC if you're concerned about not going first, maybe eating CC food. But I've also seen a lot of people eating dodge food as well to try and counter this. I mean, if you double attack with King, one of them's going to hit and you're going to put up a shield regardless. But definitely there's the dodge route. But I don't know. Odie, do you run him with HP or are you running him on an attack set?
Well, I'm running him on the attack crit, of course, because we all love that big PP damage. It's just we love watching it. And you'd love to see the one gold card just fully wipe the whole field. But I think it's an individual choice, and I think it comes down to how well you have your team built out. Because of course it is all about CC. And if you have your other characters and they're, built up, you got the cosmetics, you got the UR gear, you can afford to run the attack crit and still out CC most everybody but the whales. But if you're a lower end player or maybe one of the free to plays or someone that doesn't have the team built out and have high CC, HP crit is probably a better choice just so you stand a little bit better chance because you are right. Whoever goes first is going to win that match.
Yeah. Well, Clap, I know we're doing some top 100 recently too. Like there, I feel like CC really matters because when you're hitting a spot where almost everyone is a whale, like an extra 1,000 or 2 makes a difference. If you end up taking, say, a King into top 100, do you think that changes the argument there to really push for the HP crit or even HP defense on King?
Yeah, for top 100 for King, you definitely want to go first, but with Bond, you didn't have to go first. Going second and just ulting first is all you needed.
Yeah.
You never thought you'd miss the bomb meta in top 100, did you?
I don't miss it because it was fucked up.
What do you guys think
It still is. Doesn't get better.
What do you guys think of dodge food in general. Like I always feel like it's a bit of a cop out, but I mean, it makes you got to respect the dodge food whenever you see someone with the CC in that range. You're like, I don't know if this is a bot. I don't know if they're using dodge food. Should I bait it out first? It makes you think a little bit, knowing that dodge food is becoming a little bit more prevalent. Is it something you've ever considered, Odie, like with your running Festival King, or do you just go with CC food?
Well, actually, I was running it with attack food last night, just because I was just trying to see what I could push as far as damage, and saw some pretty good numbers last night that made me happy about all those gems that I dropped. But the dodge food, let's call it what it is. It's a total pain in the butt, and if you're running it and successfully, it can make going second much easier, because that king damage is so powerful out the gate that if you have that Gotha rank up and the double king card, A, you're almost dead, but B, you can't even get through the shield. And that shield, it's the 100% damage mitigation that's the hard part, because what it went and did is any AoE is basically irrelevant, because most of the AoEs are only hitting 150 to 200%. So you've immediately just, completely nuked any kind of AoE hitting them. And so you can't cleanse that shield off unless you're using, of course, the token, the Rugal token, which, of course, everybody's using that for the Pierce card.
Yeah, I guess a good situation to use dodge food is if you know that whatever division or tier you're in, you're probably going to be out CC'd no matter what. In those cases, yeah, dodge food, just dodging that first king attack can make such a big difference between like your whole team getting wiped or like next to no health left after turn one and being able to survive. It's still, you've got an uphill battle though, I feel like, with going second no matter what, even if you do use dodge food. Before we move on to the next topic, so do you think, I'll ask you both this question. I'll start with Odie and we'll move to Clap. Are you happier this week with King in the game than you were last week without King? What do you think, Odie?
Ooh, I'll say it like this. I tried to rank up the challenger before King dropped, just to make sure, because PvP, of course, just gets turned upside down every time a new meta comes in. So all in all, I'd have to say that with King coming, I'd have to push towards more unhappy. I think he's a little too powerful, and I think that he's gonna. It just changes so many aspects of the game that you've decreased the difficulty of Grand Cross, is what you've done with King. The bird was difficult before, now that's going to be moderate. Guild Wars was hard to get through some of the defenses. Now you have another, overpowered team to get through. So even if you're now a day one, or if you're a new player that just stopped in this week and summoned and got King, you can almost compete versus people that have been here for 2 years, 2.5 years. He's that powerful.
Clap, what do you think? Happy? Less happy this week?
I'm just not happy about it, but it's whatever.
I'm pretty happy myself, personally. I've been enjoying it, but I could see you ask me the same question next week, and I have a completely different answer. He's still the new shiny thing, and he's fun to play around with, but yeah, shiny things lose their luster after a while, and I have a funny feeling that might happen with King too. But I guess time will tell. We can revisit that in a future episode. We can have like a little reminiscent bit about what we think about King now, about a month from now. Okay, but next topic we want to talk about is Evil Lillia, who's dropped on JP. So we're going to be seeing her, presumably, in a couple weeks from now on the next banner on Global. Evil Lillia, like literally today was the first day anyone got any gameplay footage with her. And she, if you have a relic, hits really hard. I'm going to go over her kit right now. Her passive is pretty cool. And Odie was kind of talking about this before too, with like potentially having these catastrophe teams or themed teams coming into the future. Like Odie thinks that's maybe the roadmap for what Netmarble is doing here, and I can definitely see it, because what her passive is it's all 7 catastrophe allies deal an extra 10% of the hero's max HP as damage when using single targets, and 7% additional damage for AoEs. So that's of the unit. So like if you've got 100,000 HP, you're doing an extra 10,000 damage if it's a single target, an extra 7,000 damage if it's an AoE. Now that obviously scales up. So if you've got 500,000 HP for whatever reason, you got HP set, you got your Arthurs and other things using HP food, like this is a lot of bonus damage, and we've seen that in the gameplay footage of her so far. Not to mention her skills are pretty hard hitting too. She's got a single target flood card, which is exactly the same as T1's flood card, which we know does a lot of damage. And then she's got a second skill, which is an AoE kind of pumpkin bomb. It's not the exact same as pumpkin bombs, but it's very similar, where you get the dissolve at the end of their next turn. And that pumpkin bombs does a lot more damage than Gother's pumpkin bombs. I'll tell you that for sure. And most of it probably comes from this additional damage that she does. Her ult is AoE buff removal with some damage. It's not stellar, but still it's a pretty decent ult. And then the thing that really makes her shine, and I'd say the thing that really makes her good, is her relic. Her relic gives her 10% basic stats increase for each debuff on the enemy, and that's up to 50%. So if you have a Kyo out there, if they've got 3 units, guaranteed at the start of every turn, you're going to have 50% bonus basic stats on your Lillia. And the fact that, this bonus damage from her passive scales off HP, not to mention she's getting 50% more attack, those numbers get big fast. So Odie, is this Evil Lillia? Am I going to be happy that I crafted my Shin Relic? Happier that I crafted my Shin Relic once I get Evil Lillia on a team with my green Shin?
I mean, I think there's no doubt to that one. I think that her skill is so good that it's going to take all the 7 catastrophes and just basically make them all top units. It's going to upgrade everybody, and the Shin Relic will probably go a long way. If you can get that Lillia Relic too, then you might be onto something. That Lillia Relic really does make a world of difference as far as the damage goes.
Where I see this going, at least for us, anyone who's in like a Guild Wars type guild, if they ever bring back Ungeared, who knows, but in Geared Guild Wars at least, I feel like this becomes a solid defense option, or maybe even an attacking option, now that you've got, because you have a 4-on-4 PvP style, you get more advantage of a lot of these passives that we're seeing with mono. And I think Odie, you said you crafted Easton's Relic recently too. She extorts essentially, or like takes 10% of everyone's attack and puts it on herself, which is obviously more powerful in a 4v4 format. Just being able to do 4 catastrophes with each other that are all doing this bonus HP damage to everybody, hitting that much harder. You can almost stack them all with HP. I feel like you might have an unbreakable wall here. I know, Clap, you watch probably more Guild Wars than anybody. You literally, whenever we have a Guild Wars season, you're awake for, it feels like 48 hours straight, just helping people and watching people on streams. Do you see these catastrophe teams kind of coming together? Like, they've always been on the cusp of relevant. Evil Lillia, do you think she's pushing it over the cusp a little bit?
I hope so. I want them to be useful again, the catastrophes, because they've just not been good for anything in a while.
Yeah, and the fact they all have relics, I mean, it's a lot of investment to invest 3 or 4 relics onto like a four characters like that. Like, you're talking, months of time of grinding the bird.
It's only 2.5 months.
But for those of us who've already crafted Easton's Relic or Shin's Relic, and I crafted Roxy's too, maybe I feel like I'm at a poker table and I've already like pushed in so many chips into the middle, and Netmarble's just like raised me. I'm looking at my hand of catastrophes and like, okay, this is where I've got to bet the farm.
You're committed.
I'm committed. I'm pot committed. I'm going to push all in, and hopefully I'll win all those chips in the middle. Because it's a lot of fun with these catastrophe teams, and I really hope that Odie's right with this way that Netmarble's going, because I like team synergistic type teams. We've seen the Angels have a lot of synergy, especially in the 4v4 format as well. It'll be nice if we can get the catastrophes doing something similar.
But they're so close as is, because I mean, if you look at the catastrophes, they even have their own card set. You got that one set that's strictly catastrophe boosting, and then the other nice thing about the catastrophes that you don't see with any of the other units is they all complement each other. Like, and they all have the Blue Roxy has the one skill that if all 7 catastrophes are on the field, that they get a boost for I think it's basic attack related stats, and then Lillia has the one for the basic stats of all 7 catastrophes, and then Easton. The new Easton has another one too, where if you're a 7 catastrophe, you get a boost. So the question is when you put all these new units together that are all boosting the catastrophes, and then maybe link on that card set and throw in a few relics, you probably have a team that's going to do a lot of damage and be viable everywhere.
Yeah, taking a lot of units that might be mediocre on them by themselves, but if they can amplify each other, then suddenly they can be elevated to new heights. And that's kind of where I'm hoping they're going. It'll be interesting to see what the next catastrophe unit is. I feel like we're probably due for a Camilla. We only have one Camilla since the release. I feel like we've got 2 or 3 of each other catastrophe. So maybe the new green Camilla or whatever color she ends up being will be the new OP unit too.
Well, what do you think about the new units coming out? Because now that we're reaching the end of the anime, do they just push a lot of the Ragnarok in the catastrophe units because they have to actually create characters since they're running out of stuff to do as far as the animation goes?
Yeah, well, I guess they did that already with the catastrophes, right? They can create their own storylines. Like, who knows? Maybe we've got the 7 deadly sins and the catastrophes, the commandments. Maybe there'll be a new set of something they decide to pull in here. I think at one point there was rumored that they were going to start bringing in vampires because they're starting to come into the storyline, I believe, in the anime a little bit. Like, not a ton, but enough that maybe they can create a new race for it. So maybe there's something like that too. And the nice thing about having the Ragnarok story is they can they've shown us they're okay to completely explore new arcs of the story. And the fact that they're just kind of drip feeding us the actual anime too, and there are still a lot of new units that I don't want to spoil anything, but we know are coming very shortly in the anime story that are not quite there yet, that might be super overpowered. But you can also release other versions of, Chandlers and Cusacks that we don't have a lot of, Sariels and Tarmiels. We've only had one of both of those guys for a long time. So I'm not too concerned that we're going to be running out of potential units down the road, but who knows? I guess we'll have to see what Netmarble decides to do with it. I'm just happy the game's lasted this long and seems to be doing very healthy as it is.
Maybe one day we'll get that Festarossa that everybody's been waiting for.
Festival Estarossa, yeah, I know. It might even just be 2 or 3 weeks away. I think a lot of people are like, the next one's a Holy War. They're kind of trying to predict that that's going to be the next one, and I know a lot of people are holding on to those gems. They're looking at these units like Lillia, being like, "Hey, well, I just went ham on the Festival King banner." They see Lillia, they're like, "She looks kind of good, but I know there's a Holy War festival just around the corner," and you gotta be careful of these bait banners. We don't have the luxury anymore of, when the game started, we were 9 months or something behind JP. We can't have that vision of the future like we used to. We only know 2 weeks ahead, one banner ahead, right? So, be careful with those gems.
But I'll tell you, like, the best thing about Lillia might actually be her banner. The units that are going to be on that banner with Lillia they look good. It's all of the seasonal units and the stuff that's been really hard to find, the Wedding Dianes and the Red Elaines that I think got there's 8 or 9 units on the banner. I think I'm missing 5 of them.
Yeah, definitely. It's a box CC padding banner because they're typically banners that people wouldn't have gone hard on in the past, right? So like those seasonals, the catastrophes. So not many people would have them high alt levels or anything because they're not often even on banners. So this is a great one. Yeah, the Halloween Elaine, I believe, is on it, like you said, and like there's some that you don't see at all. Wedding Deanne, we haven't seen her in a while too. She's on the banner, I believe, too. So pretty exciting. And we've got a gear rate up gacha too, which I'm excited about, which should be coming for us in 2 weeks. I've been saving all my gold from gold farming. So I've got
everybody's excited.
Yeah, a lot of gold to spend. It takes a long time to pull and salvage and pull and salvage and pull and salvage though. So but we'll see. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about with Evil Lillia before we move on to the game?
Nope.
That's a no. Oh, you know what? We do have the featured comment. I can't forget that section, especially since Odie was the one who was the featured comment last week. Okay, so I'll read off the featured comment. Again, if you place a comment on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere, we scour through them. We take one every week and we feature it on the show. Today's, we're featuring Dima from YouTube comments. He or she said, "Time to run the meme team of Deldry and Blue Galland. Once passive hits King, he will be useless. Slap Lolly Merlin in for the carry. LOL." And lots of LOLs with that one. I'd love just to like go in and do some troll teams like that. I need to dust off the Deldry. I think she's one of the few units that I don't have like level 80'd even yet, because she's a hard one to argue to bring investment into. But yeah, if you have Deldry, who, if people don't know, I think she charms one unit so that anytime that unit attacks, they just just patience everybody, I believe. And then Blue Gallon will taunt. And then also his commandment makes it so that you can't, if you rank up, the Gother gets petrified or frozen or whatever. So it sounds pretty fun and toxic to king teams, but you have to have a little RNG for the Deldry to hit the right one, right? If the Deldry ends up putting her charm on Gother, it's not doing as much as you'd hope.
Yeah, that's a 1 in 3 chance right there of winning that match. So, because if Deldry charms anybody but King, it's pretty much over, because it only works versus her. So if a single target attack, you can attack anybody else and it still works. But the AoEs, of course, since it damages her, it protects everybody from the damage. So total cheese. It is a troll team, but it'll work 1 out of 3 times.
Doesn't make me want to try it any less though. I really want to take that for a spin. Thanks, D-Maw, for that one.
Just wait till you get the challenger where you won't get dropped back down for losing.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to worry about it. Just like when you're on the cusp of the challenger. Okay, so we're going to move into the Jeopardy game. And man, it's been so long. I feel like 3 or 4 months since we've last been able to do one of these games, because we took a big break from the podcast. Sandy and Novich sadly haven't been able to make this work with their schedule for a long time. And even the last few episodes they were on, it was only Sandy, I think, for the last couple. Then we've only had Clap for the last couple. Now we finally have a 3-man squad, 3-person squad, so we can actually do a game. I can host a Jeopardy game for Odie and Claptrap here. So funny enough, the Jeopardy that we're using today, the categories and everything, it was really meant for Sandy, the theme of it, because it's a Beyonce theme. I know that she would get a kick out of that. Don't worry guys, there's no like Beyonce trivia or anything here. It's just the names of the categories are Beyonce songs. It's just something that I thought that Sandy would get a kick out of. Sandy, we miss you. Okay, so
trivia to the left.
Yeah. So the 2 categories, we've got All My Single Ladies, and we've got Crazy in Love. So those are the themes of the categories. They're loosely themed. It is still 7DS trivia. And just like Jeopardy, we're going to have point values of $200, $400, $600, $800, and $1,000 for each of these categories. Any wrong answer is going to get you $-, and at the end we'll have a final Jeopardy. Since Odie is the new guest on the show, we'll have Odie choose a category and a dollar amount. We'll start with there. So you got control of the board, Odie. What do you want to take?
Oh, let's see. It's 2021, so let's go All My Single Ladies for 100.
For 200. Okay.
100.
Yep. I decided to do I think it's the double Jeopardy round where they're inflated prices just to make everyone feel better about getting more points. So $200, All My Single Ladies. The question is, or the answer is, I guess, because we're doing Jeopardy. I doubt this lady will ever find herself in a relationship. She's already found her love in science and innovation. Come on, guys. Sandy would have...
I got this.
Right.
This is Grand Cross trivia, right?
This is Grand Cross, yep.
All right, I got an answer.
Okay. Valenti? Who is Valenti is the correct answer. Odie, you got 200. Great start, Odie. So Odie is at 200. And that also means you have control of the board, sir.
Oh, nice. Let's go 400.
So if you haven't guessed yet, all the answers to these are going to be single ladies. All My Single Ladies for 400. She's been single for 3,000 years, probably because she was betrayed by her love interest at the time, losing an eye, her legs, and almost her life. I'll give you a hint too. She's a fairy. I feel like it's on the tip of your tongue, Odie.
I'm just trying to think about, who's the pirate fairy over there with the one eye.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna call that time. It's actually Gerhard. She's hidden with the eye, right? And she actually doesn't have any legs because, I guess spoiler alert, but it's already past that in the anime and in game 2. She ends up like losing her legs to that Bond lookalike in the 3,000 years in the past, and her eye gets attacked and stuff. So anyways, that is Gerhard.
Yeah, right. No one's got no for Gerhard.
Yep. Nope. She's one of the forgotten characters of the game, I guess. Anyhow, see, again, this was more relevant because I did this question at the time when this chapter was released in the game too, so it would have been more fresh in people's minds. Okay, Odie, got 3 left in this category, or do you want to change it over to Crazy in Love?
We can change it up. Let's go Crazy in Love for 2.
All right, Crazy in Love for 200. Claptrap, I'm waiting for your comeback here. Love can make you do crazy things. This female character carries both her love interest and his girlfriend for miles, saving their lives from 2 commandments in the process.
Oh, got it.
All right, Odie.
Jericho.
Who is Jericho is correct. So Odie got 400. Clap, 0.
That's one of my favorite parts of the anime too. When Galland takes his staff there and just golf balls that boulder at him.
Yeah.
Good scene. Galland is one of the best characters in the anime by far. They
He's
didn't do
funny.
him justice in the game.
I love how they end up getting to like Escanor's tavern and just like having a few pints of Escanor too before everyone realizes who everybody is.
It's such a good scene.
Okay. You got control of the board, Odie. We got Crazy in Love for 400 through 1,000, or All My Single Ladies 600 through 1,000.
Let's go Crazy in Love for 4.
Crazy in Love for 400. Muscles aren't everything. This hulking man is solidly stuck in the friend zone with his magical love interest. This is probably one of the easiest ones.
Escanor.
Oh, yeah, yep. Who is Escanor? Clap got it. Just throw your hand up if you ever got one. That actually ties it up because it was 400. I got to watch for the buzzer, right? The visual cue is the only thing I have to go by. We're low tech here. Okay, Clap. You've got control of the board. You're just trying to lull Odie into a false sense of security, I think.
I mean, it's the only way he'll be able to win, right?
Okay, so we got Crazy in Love for 600, 800, or 1,000, or All My Single Ladies for 600, 800, or 1,000.
Well, I'm more interested in the single ladies for 600 then.
Okay. All My Single Ladies for 600. This character harbored a lifelong love of Elizabeth, which literally drove him insane, at least temporarily. Odie. Oh, just beat him out.
Mael?
I'll take it. Esterosa. No spoilers. So it's 1,000.
Yep.
Yep, Esterosa.
Watch the anime, peeps.
So Clap is at 400. That's all right. People will just
we're
be
past that
confused
point,
more
that's
than
all.
anything, right? So okay, so we've got Odie 1,000, Clap 400, and Odie has control of the board.
Let's go. Oh, I'd just like to bring up that Esterosa is not a single lady. So,
That's true, but
maybe
I guess
he is.
Elizabeth. I don't. I guess my thought was Elizabeth was at the time, which made him crazy. So, but I guess she wasn't at the time too. So.
We've all been there.
Oh,
Let's
you know
go.
what? I messed up. That was actually Crazy in Love for 600. That makes more sense. So I'm going to take that one off the board. That was my bad.
Okay.
I read from the wrong category.
Well, let's go single lady 600.
All right. This bookworm doesn't have time for a relationship. She's constantly growing in power, just recently evolving, kind of like a Pokemon. Okay, Claptrap.
What?
You put your hand up.
Sorry, I don't know the answer here.
Okay, I'll pretend like I didn't see the hand then. Odie, who is it, do you think? Easton, yeah. And that, again, I wrote that around the time when she evolved into her, like, I can't remember, the new named Easton. So
That was my guess, only because she's always walking around with that book. So
yeah, the bookworm. Yep, try and give a couple hints in there. Okay, so All My Single Ladies for 600 is off the board. Odie, you've got 1,600. Clap, you've got 400. And Odie, you got control of the board, bud.
let's go single ladies 800.
There's probably a million guys who'd love to have this girl be their ball and chain, as long as she doesn't swing hers at them. Okay, Odie. Oh, sorry, no, Claptrap got that one.
That's Roxy.
That's definitely Roxy. Gotta make sure I put my cell phone on mute. It like blinged at me there. Okay, so that was for 800. Yep. So we're getting closer here. That's 1,200 for Clap and 1,600 for Odie. So, Clap, where are we going next?
Single ladies for 1,000.
Single A's for 1,000. Okay. These two druids are happy living the single life. After all, they've got each other. Clap got it first.
He did.
That's Jenna and Zaneri.
Yep. I'm impressed. I always forget Jenna's name for some reason. I remember Zaneri, but I always forget Jenna. All right, Clap, you stormed ahead just on the strength of your category of All My Single Ladies. You're at
All those
2,200.
demons I grind out.
That's true. We all know that you love doing your demons. So it's Clap's got 2,200, Odie's got 1,600. We've got two more on the board. Crazy in Love for 800 or Crazy in Love for 1,000?
Let's go for 800 then.
Okay, Crazy in Love for 800. His commandment didn't allow him to speak the feelings in his heart to the one he loved, so he had to show her how he felt by sacrificing his life to save hers. This was recently in the game as well. 3, 2, 1. No guesses. It's Who is Monspeed? He sacrifices himself to save Derriere.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, final one is Crazy in Love for 1,000. This blue-haired lady is crazy in love with Subaru Natsuki, but there's a re-zero chance he can return her love as long as Amelia is on the scene.
Ooh.
Oh, hey, Odie.
Is it? God, I'm going to mess this up. Is it Rem?
It is Rem. I was really going to say Ram there, yep. Well, this is
I was going to say that for a second.
This is a close one. So Odie is in the lead with 2,600, and Clap's got 2,200. We're going into Final Jeopardy. So we total honor system here because we've got no good way of doing it. Just think of your answer, think of your wager, and let me know. And just remember, it's just a game. Okay, so Final Jeopardy. I'll give you the category. Actually, I don't have a category for you. So just think of your wager, and then I'll go over the question. You guys have a wager in mind? We got 2,600 for Odie and 2,200 for Clap.
Yep, bet it all.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So the question is, name the 5 units in the game with a rank-up mechanic. Let you guys think about that for a while here. Wish
5
I should
units?
5 units. I will. Some might be different colors, right? I'll wish I had the Jeopardy music to play during this, but I guess we can just have me talk for a little bit while you guys do your thinking.
Oh, you can hum it out.
Yeah. do 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 do. makes great airtime, right? Okay. So you know what? If you get 4 out of the 5, I think we'll accept that as a good response because it's kind of tough to get all 5. So if you get 4 out of this is 4 out of the 5 units in the game with a rank. Okay. So let's see time. So whatever your answer is in your head now is one we're going to lock in. So be honest if you missed one. We'll start with Clap because he's behind right now. Clap, how much are you betting?
I'm betting it all.
Betting it all. Attaboy. And who are the 4 out of the 5 rank up characters that you can think of?
There's Gopher and Shannon. I don't know the others.
Okay, well, Gother, there's the 2 Gothers, right? So that's 3. So Gother, and Shin. Those are correct answers, but you're still missing 2. Odie, did you end up having more than Clap?
Yeah, I think we all had red Gother, green Gother, and Shin. Those are the obvious ones there. And the 4th and 5th ones are really tough. I'm going to take a wild guess here. Red Glocks? Because when you combine his cards, he gets...
Oh, no. You guys are going to kick yourselves when you hear this. So how much did you wager? You wagered all 2, Odie?
All of it, yeah.
This is going to be an epic tie. That's what everyone's going to have 0. So the other 2, Clap, Dana for Liz. She's got a rank up mechanic at the beginning, right?
Oh, come on.
And then Lost Fane Meliodas is the other one, too.
I blame Odie because he plays Dana for Liz in arcades.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot you guys are doing
Odie should have
partners,
known.
too. Yeah, it was funny when I was going through. I went through every character just to like kind of double check that I got them all right. I knew the 4, and then I saw Lost Fane. I was like, oh yeah, Lost Fane's got one too. And who knows, maybe there's someone I'm forgetting. But those are the 5 that I had.
Yeah.
So Shin, Red Gother, Green Gother, Danafor Liz, and Lost Fane Meliodas. Well,
I'll be honest, I'm impressed he came up with 5.
it's easy when you're sitting there and you're like looking at each one. It's a little bit harder when you're on the spot. But you know what? Even though you both ended up with $0, fictitious dollars as they are, and a tie, it still is all about the journey that counts, and it was a fun one. So I really enjoyed that game. Okay, so that's the end of our episode. Odie, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me, man. I've seen the podcast for a while now, and it's been an honor to be a guest over here. So.
This won't be the last time. I can promise everybody that. I think as long as Odie's willing. Clap, Thanks as always to you, man. And thanks to all the listeners for joining us today at the Boar Hat Tavern, a Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross podcast. We still haven't decided to make the jump to streaming these live again, but I'll let you know if we ever do. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us anytime, podcast@boarhattavern.com. All three of us, myself, Odie, and Clapp, as well as Sandy and Novich, were members of the Global Guild Denied. It's part of the Scoundrels Alliance. If you'd like to join our ranks, you can pop onto our Discord server. We'll put the link in the description below. And if that link doesn't work, you can always send us an email. We can get in touch with you. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also find our shows on our website at boarhattavern.com. I'd like to thank Madeline Marois for crafting our killer logo, Streetwise Rhapsody from YouTube for composing the awesome cover of the Grand Cross theme song that we use for our intro, and Andre Bobe from ArtStation for letting us use his outstanding 3D renders of the Boar Hat for our pre-live and post-video splash screens. You can find all their work in the description below. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.